I never believed the city could feel so lonely until the night he found me. Or maybe it wasn't loneliness, it was the sharp, humiliating reminder that in New York, omegas like me were meant to stay invisible, tucked away between skyscrapers, surviving in the shadows while alphas and betas built the skyline above us. That night was supposed to be just another night. Me rushing down Broadway with a sketchbook clutched under my arm, avoiding eye contact, hoping my sense suppressants held. But then I saw Hyman Alpha so arrestingly composed, he seemed carved from the steel beams of the city itself. His eyes found me like I was the only thing that existed on the crowded street. He didn't look away, and I hated that I couldn't either. I had heard about Elias Hart before I ever saw him. New York's darling architect, the man who had reshaped entire skylines before turning 35, who had made billionaires bow to his designs. To the world, he was genius. To me, he was danger, because men like him didn't just notice men like me. They devoured us. And yet, when I stumbled in front of his building, catching my breath after sprinting from another failed interview, he didn't walk past. He stopped. "You're sent." His voice was low, steady, laced with a shock I wasn't supposed to hear. "You're different." The words seared into me. Panic clawed my throat. He wasn't supposed to know. Nobody ever did. My suppressants had never failed me before. But tonight maybe it was the stress. Maybe the moon was cruel, me body had betrayed me. I tried to push past him, but his hand caught my wrist. Not rough, not demanding, but firm. Like an anchor. And I should have screamed. I should have run. Instead, I froze. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Omegas like me, we didn't get noticed by men like him. We lived quietly, masking what we were, pretending to belong in a city that only celebrated power. But Elias looked at me as if I wasn't weak, as if I wasn't something to be hidden. He looked at me like I was fire. "I don't know your name," he said, his eyes not leaving mine. "But I know I'll regret it for the rest of my life if I let you walk away right now." The audacity of him, the ridiculous arrogance. Who says things like that to strangers on a New York sidewalk? I should have laughed in his face. I should have shoved him away. But instead, I whispered, "Aaron." My name sounded fragile between us, like glass waiting to be dropped. And for some reason, Elias Hart held it like it was the most valuable thing he'd ever touched. Days turned into weeks, and somehow he found me again. Always under the pretense of coincidencia at a cafe I thought was hidden, at the library where I worked part-time shelving books, even at the gallery where I sold sketches for scraps of rent money. First, I thought he was stalking me. Maybe part of me wanted him to be, because every time I looked up, there he was watching me like I mattered. And maybe that was the most dangerous thing of all, because no one had ever made me feel like I mattered before. New York doesn't forgive weakness. I had learned that the hard way, being the kind of omega who wasn't soft enough to be wanted by alphas for comfort, and not strong enough to compete with betas in the ruthless climb of corporate towers. I was in between, forgettable, but Elias refused to forget me. He would slide into conversations with an easy arrogance, like he'd known me for years. "You draw buildings the way I dream them," he said once, thumbing through my sketches without asking. "You see the world in lines I wish I could steal." "Don't flatter me," I muttered, snatching the notebook back. "Who said I was flattering you?" He shot back, lips curving into a smile that made my chest tighten. And just like that, I was caught. But for every gentle word, there was the cruel reality clawing behind it. I wasn't supposed to trust him. Alphas were dangerous. The bond, the claim, the absolute possession that came with their world, it terrified me. And yet, every time he leaned closer, I felt like I could finally breathe. It all came to a breaking point one night on a rooftop. He had lured me there with a text I never should have answered. "I need you to see the city from my eyes." When I arrived, the skyline stretched out like glass and fire, the kind of view only money and ambition could buy. Elias stood there with the moon painting silver into his hair, and for a moment, I swore my heart stopped. "You shouldn't keep chasing me," I told him, wrapping my arms tight around myself. "I'm not who you think I am." He didn't move, didn't blink, just stepped closer until his warmth pressed against the night air. I know exactly who you are. I laughed, bitter and small. You don't. You don't know what it's like to be Omega in this city. To be less than. To be prey. Something flickered in his gaze fury, maybe, but not at me. At the world that had taught me to believe those words. You're not less, he said fiercely. You're the most extraordinary thing I've ever found. And I will never stop chasing you, not until you believe it too. And that was the moment I realized I was lost. Not because he had claimed me, but because I wanted him to. The first kiss didn't happen under fireworks or in some cinematic explosion of passion. It happened in the quiet between us, when my walls finally cracked and his patience broke through. His lips brushed mine like a question, like a promise he didn't dare say out loud. And I answered with everything I had been too afraid to give. The city roared below us, uncaring. But under the moonlight we built a world of our own. But happiness in New York is never free. For every night Elias held me, every laugh he pulled from me, there were whispers. Alphas don't chase unknown omegas. Architects of his stature don't risk reputations for nobodies. And I was more than nobody. I was a secret, a dangerous one, because I wasn't just Omega. I was rare, different, the kind of different people wanted to own, to cage, to sell. And Elias knew it the moment he scented me. The secret couldn't stay buried. Not in New York. Not when power and greed swirled in every boardroom and back alley. The truth of what I was slipped into the wrong ears, carried by whispers sharper than knives. And once it was out, the city that had ignored me suddenly wanted a piece of me. I didn't even know who betrayed me. Maybe the cafe worker who noticed I never smelled like anyone else. Maybe the gallery owner who thought he was doing me a favor by talking about my mystique. It didn't matter. All I knew was that men in dark suits began following me home. That strangers stared too long, breathing in too deeply when I passed. That I couldn't breathe without fear scraping the inside of my lungs. And Eliashi knew. He knew the moment I flinched at every sound, when I began carrying my sketchbook like a shield, when I stopped answering his calls. He showed up at my apartment one night, his shoulders tense, jaw clenched tight. You should have told me, he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was raw. Broken. What good would that do? I shot back, my hands trembling. So you could swoop in like some alpha savior? So you could lock me in a cage and call it love? His eyes darkened, like I had stabbed him. Is that what you think of me? I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him he was the only person who had ever looked at me like I was more than my biology. But the world had taught me that Omegas couldn't afford to believe in fairy tales. So I stayed silent. And silence sometimes hurts worse than any answer. The night it all shattered. Rain hammered the city like a punishment. I had been running again, always running, when they cornered me in an alley. Two alphas I didn't know, with smiles that dripped poison. You're worth a fortune, you know that? One of them sneered. A special Omega like you? People would pay to own you. The other reached for me, and I swear I stopped breathing. My mind screamed, my body betrayed me, but before they could drag me away, a roar split the storm. Elias. He fought like the city itself had lent him its strength, like the skyscrapers had poured steel into his bones. I had never seen rage so pure, so terrifying. He didn't stop until the men were gone, until the rain washed their threats into the gutter. And then he turned to me. I expected anger, accusations, maybe even disgust. But all I saw was fear. Not for himself. For me. I could have lost you, he whispered, his hands shaking as they cupped my face. Aaron, don't you get it? You're mine. Not because you're Omega. Not because of what makes you different. Because you're you. And I can't survive this city without you in it. Something in me cracked open then. Something I had kept locked for years. And for the first time I let him in. But letting someone in doesn't erase the scars. It doesn't silence the fear overnight. The weeks that followed were a storm of doubt and longing. Elias kept me too close sometimes, like if he let go, the city would swallow me whole. I hated the way it made me feel caged, but I loved the way his arms were the only place I felt safe. We argued. God, we argued. About freedom. About safety. about what it meant to be together in a world that would always see us as wrong. "You don't get it?" I snapped one night, pacing across his penthouse, my voice cracking. "You have power, money, respect. You walk into any room and the world bends for you. I walk into a room and I'm prey." Elias didn't flinch. He didn't deny it. He just walked to me, slow and steady, and said, "Then let me be the shield that gives you the chance to stop running. Let me build a world where you don't have to hide." And damn him, part of me believed he could. The turning point came on another rooftop, months after the night everything nearly ended. He had dragged me there again, stubborn as ever, insisting I see the city from above. This time I didn't resist. The skyline glowed beneath us, veins of light pulsing through the dark. The moon hung heavy, watching. Elias turned to me, his expression unreadable. "I've spent my whole life building things that touch the sky," he said. "But none of it means anything if I can't build a life with you." My chest tightened. "Elias, I don't care about the bond," he pressed, voice fierce. "I don't care about biology or what the world thinks an alpha and omega should be. I only care about you, just you. Will you let me chase you, Aaron? Not as an alpha, not as an architect, just as a man who loves you." The city blurred behind my tears. My whole life I had been told I was less, that I was something to hide, to control, to use. And here he was, this man carved from ambition and steel, begging not to own me, but to be chosen. And I chose him. The bond came later, not in fire or force, but in a quiet morning when the world still slept. He asked permission with his eyes. I gave it with a trembling nod. And when it snapped into place, it wasn't a cage. It was freedom, a tether that didn't chain me, but kept me from drifting into the dark. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running. I was home. New York didn't change overnight. People still stared. Whispers still followed. Some doors slammed shut. Others creaked open with curiosity or greed. But I wasn't facing it alone anymore. Elias stood at my side. Not in front of me, not behind me, beside me. And slowly, I began to believe what he had always seen. That I wasn't less. That I wasn't prey. That maybe, just maybe, I was extraordinary. Years later, I still keep the sketchbook from that first night, the one he grabbed without asking, the one that started it all. Its pages are worn, the ink smudged, but tucked between the lines of half-finished buildings and dreamscapes is the story of us. A story of an omega who thought he was invisible, and the alpha who refused to let him disappear. Sometimes, when the city feels too heavy, we climb back onto that rooftop. The skyline stretches out like it belongs to us. The moon spills silver across his hair, and he always reaches for my hand, as if reminding me he'll never stop chasing. And I smile because he doesn't have to anymore. He's already caught me. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.